Now, I know some of you are bored of hearing me talk about AI for months now, and I'm getting pretty tired of working on it, but I've run into another problem. Currently, the AI calls any tasks that can't be started this turn because it's trying to pick the next actions to do, but that causes it to prefer less efficient actions such as move and then shoot over just shoot, even if it was already in a more optimal location to fire from, just because the movement can be started this turn. Now, I did think of a way to solve this in theory, which is to generate the tasks up front at the beginning of the turn, and then once the first task is picked, remove anything else that uses a unit that wasn't able to finish its actions from that first task. The most optimal firing task would be picked first, even if it can't be started this turn, and then any other tasks involving that unit would be cut from the list, and then it would repeat this process of picking the top task and cutting anything that's a conflict with the remainder of what it needs to do. But that got me thinking, this is what they call a greedy algorithm. Picking the most appealing first step first without thinking ahead is usually not an optimal solution for this type of problem. So I took some time to think about options again. I reconsidered GOPE briefly, but I concluded that it's just not viable because the combinatorial explosion will have so many possibilities to explore that it'll probably either hit a memory limit or take way too long. I also considered something that ended up being pretty similar to the Minimax algorithm, which is what is traditionally used for chess AI. And again, it turns out the combinatorial explosion makes that not viable either. But I found this really fascinating paper suggesting an alternate approach for specifically this type of game, for tactical games in which you move multiple units in a turn. And their approach is called online evolution. After reading their paper, I'm pretty convinced this is probably the best thing to do for cargo defense if the performance works out, because in many ways the game they tested on was simpler. There are no line of sight checks, the board is much smaller, and they also have the advantage that they're probably not calling into a language as inefficient as GD script. So it's possible that this approach will be too slow and that the greedy pick one action at a time approach is literally the only thing that I can do without the AI taking forever. But I decided before I implement my fix for the current solution, I'd give this a try. So let's see how far I can get. So what is online evolution? Well, the basic idea put forth by Niels Gestason, Tobias Malman, and Julian Togelius is to use a genetic algorithm not to evolve the AI itself, but to evolve a sequence of actions for the current turn. This process is started over from scratch every turn. To do this, I need 5 main components. First, a version of the game state that I can clone and modify without affecting the real game state. Second, a fitness function, a way to score that state against other possible states. Third, a way to get the actions possible from a given state, and to apply those actions to the state. Fourth, a way to generate a new sequence of actions from 2 or more parents with some probability of mutation. And finally, the overarching genetic algorithm, which repeatedly culls the worst of the population and introduces new offspring. I actually have got most of this implemented, but unfortunately this is another case where it's not ready to actually demonstrate yet. But there is one thing I can show. Before I started on this, I got far enough with the old AI that I got the new movement changes working. Here you can see multiple outlines and movement highlights indicating how many actions will be left depending on where you move. For the outermost ring, there'll be no actions left after movement. For the next ring in, you'd have 1 action left, etc. And as you can see, if I don't move all the way to the edge of one of these rings, I still have a fraction of an action left. So I guess that's all I have to say for cargo defense this week. Next week I'll either have this online evolution algorithm working, or I'll go back to the original short-sighted greedy algorithm. Now before I go, I'd like to briefly talk about the game jam and live streaming. I've mentioned doing a game jam a few times, but I've been procrastinating on really nailing down the details, so I want to keep this really informal to avoid spending a lot of time planning and organizing, but if you'd like to participate, here's the plan. I'll kick things off with a live stream on Friday, October 11th, in the evening my time, and then I'll split this into 2 categories. For those who want to work on this in a 48-hour chunk over the weekend, the deadline will be Sunday evening. But for those who can't or don't want to cram it into one weekend, there will be a second category with a deadline of 1 week from the kickoff. Each category will have a different theme, randomly selected from suggestions posted on Discord. One thing I have yet to figure out is hosting of the games. The simplest solution would just be to have everyone host their games themselves and post a link on Discord, but I know that's not ideal. Finally, sometime afterward I'll make a video showcasing my favorite submissions, so if for some reason you don't want your game featured in a video, please make that very clear up front. And now, about my weekly research game live streams. I know how annoying it can be to have your subscription feed filled with a lot of stuff you're not interested in, and I don't want to drive people away who came here for game dev stuff and don't want to see me play games. I put up a poll about this, and I know most people said they didn't want me to split off to a separate channel, but I think I'd like to start doing streaming more often, and it could get more annoying over time, so I know it'll be hard to build up another channel from scratch, but I would much rather fail to build an audience for my live streams than drive away the audience I already have. So if you'd like to watch me play games, unfortunately YouTube doesn't let you get a nice custom URL until you have a certain number of subscribers, so right now it's a really ugly URL. I'll put it on the screen, but it might be out of date in the future. I will, however, keep the link in the description up to date. Really? Well, I was going to say I'd be streaming on the new channel today, but apparently there's a 24-hour holding period, so I'll try sometime this weekend. In the meantime, I have already posted a non-live Let's Play, and if you subscribe, you'll see more soon. So that's all for this video. As always, it really helps if you hit the like button, spread the word, and subscribe if you haven't already. And of course, thanks for watching.